Day in colonialist America when there was something called the town crier or the horseman, the guy that typically would ride from town to town spreading news. Well, you had to be there when he rode through, otherwise you didn't get the message. Or you had to be around in the town square when the town crier was willing to come out and talk about the news of the town. The U.S. Postal Service. If you want to communicate with somebody via written media, write a letter, put it in an envelope, address the envelope, lick the envelope, put a stamp on it, take it to a nearby mailbox, and hope that it gets to its intended destination. The newspaper. There's a newspaper in my town called the New York Times. And as long as I can remember, one of their monikers is all the news that's fit to print. Now that may mean one thing, but let me take that phrase and use it in another way. Keying on the word fit. The issue is newspaper is only so many pages. Somebody makes decisions and choices for you about the news that fits, let alone fit to print. But essentially what you'd have to do traditionally is subscribe to the newspaper, whether via home delivery perhaps, go out to a 7-Eleven or grocery store and buy the newspaper, and read what somebody else's definition of news that they feel you should read in that limited amount of time and space. Radio. You tune in a radio station and you listen to somebody else's idea of what they think you should be listening to. Now, of course, in radio, there are different formats to appeal to different demographics, but essentially what you are doing is you're listening to somebody else's programming intended to target you. Hopefully you'll like it, and that'll remain a viable radio station. News is the same thing. When you listen to news on the radio, it's all the news that somebody else felt fit to read to you. Again, relatively old media, old paradigms. I remember when I was a kid, growing up, it was traditional for us to surround the table and have family dinner, which I know is, in a lot of households is a thing of the past, given our busy lifestyles these days, and it's a shame. But I also remember as a part of that vigil, every day, that we'd sit down and watch Walter Cronkite. Edward R. Murrow was a little bit before my time, but Walter Cronkite at 6 or 6:30, as was most of America. And in that half an hour, at that scheduled time, Walter Cronkite, America's newsman, would read to you in approximately 22 minutes worth of time, because the rest of it's commercials, what he and the organization felt was fit to offer you as news of the day. Once again, you had to tune in, particular time, and listen to somebody else's interpretation of what they felt you should know on any given day. Again, old media, old paradigms. Let's move on to newer media. And I say newer because it's changing as I speak and stand here. And evolving paradigms. Cable networks, satellite TV, direct television. Now, as opposed to when I was yay high, you can get news 24/7 from somebody somewhere on cable or satellite. Not only can you get news, how many of y'all are sports junkies? Okay, you can get sports on multiple outlets 24/7. And you know what, in the old days when it was about the Yankees and the Mets playing the Subway Series across town from each other, and that was it, nowadays you can get ping pong and badminton 24/7 practically. So you have more choices. But in fact, you're still watching what somebody else chose to program for you, although there are in fact more choices. Satellite radio, Sirius, XM radio. When I sold radio in New York, there was one jazz station, as an example. One jazz station. Well, on Sirius radio, there's probably 15 different jazz channels that you can listen to. Cool jazz, smooth jazz, the cafe jazz, they have all kinds of different names. But again, they're specifically trying to target smaller and smaller. So again, a newer media, a newer paradigm. Cell phones. Everybody's got a cell phone here. I can imagine. You all got computers. Everybody's got a cell phone. No longer can you face the bill. Well, I wasn't home. I didn't get that message about that bill. Personal computers and laptops, email, Okay, some thought email might be the death of the Postal Service. It is to a degree. Internet, broadband. iPods. iPods changed a lot of things big time. Because now, instead of listening to somebody else programming for you, you have the ability to program personally, individually. Let me fast forward to the newest media and the new paradigms. HDTV is an example. It is possible that you could watch Wendy Corona, since she's here, my friend Wendy. And God, that's a very attractive outfit Wendy's wearing tonight. And the technology does exist right now. Whether or not we'll see it evolve, but you could actually click on a button and say, I want to buy Wendy's outfit while you're watching Wendy deliver the news. That is a business model that is available to us through HDTV and the use of that additional spectrum, as well as technology. You could be watching your favorite soap opera, and at the same time, they're trying to sell you the clothes on the back that the actors are wearing. That is possible. Let me share with you something that I had a little bit of an epiphany about recently. I know a lot of you have Blackberries. I saw a bunch of them earlier, affectionately known as crackberries, fairly addictive. Okay, well, I just got something about a month ago, and maybe some of you have seen these or whatever. It's not necessarily, wow, gee, what is that? It's obviously a phone and probably looks very similar to a Blackberry, but there is a difference. This is what they're calling, and if you haven't heard this term before, you will, a smartphone. Have any of you heard the term smartphone? Let me share with you, and I have both. This is my company phone, this is my personal, so that's why I had the two. But let me share with you some of the differences in this new media, this new paradigm. Unfortunately for Wendy, as well as perhaps my own station, I don't need to watch the morning show anymore.